Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ultimate Scouting Show. Thank you for joining me. Today, we're going to be looking at which teams will have different starting quarterbacks in 2023. Let's dive right into this tier list here. We have 5 different categories here. We have teams that already have their franchise quarterbacks, teams that have quarterbacks that will start in 2023, teams that have a little bit of uncertainty at quarterback, some that are looking for a replacement, and some that are desperate to get a quarterback. So we are going to put all 32 NFL teams in one of these categories here. First up, we have the Chicago Bears. I think the Chicago Bears certainly have Justin Fields ready and primed to start for 2023. Obviously, with the first overall pick, they could take somebody like Bryce Young, but I definitely think they like what Justin Fields has done, and for good reason. He is shown to certainly be a playmaker, which the Bears have many other problems. Right now, I don't think there's really any real chance that Justin Fields is not the starter in 2023. For the Cincinnati Bengals, they have their franchise quarterback. Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Not a whole lot to say there. Certainly going to be the quarterback of the Bengals next year. Same thing with Josh Allen. Both very, very talented quarterbacks, both under contract. No reason to think they will not be there on those respective teams for 2023. Next up, we have the Denver Broncos. I would say they have a quarterback ready to start in 2023. Now, I don't think Russell Wilson has been good at all. You bring in Sean Payton, hopefully he can get the most out of him. For a long-term perspective, I don't think they're really happy with what Russell Wilson has provided for them so far, but because of his contract, he's got to start in 2023. For the Browns, it's kind of the same thing for Deshaun Watson. I don't think he played super well coming back after pretty much 2 years of not playing at all. Didn't really play amazingly, but they have way too much invested in him. He's certainly going to be the quarterback in 2023. I don't think you can say he's a franchise quarterback right now just because of the uncertainty with him, but you certainly know that he is going to be the Browns quarterback next year. As far as the Buccaneers go, they're pretty desperate at this point. Now that Tom Brady has retired, you have Kyle Trask and maybe Blaine Gabbert if you bring him back. That's a very dire situation to be in. I did not like Kyle Trask at all coming out. I had a 4th round grade on him. I really don't think that there's any world in which he is a very, very good NFL quarterback. I think if they're really going to be competitive and try to win games this year, Kyle Trask cannot be that guy, and they're going to be desperate for a quarterback. As far as the Arizona Cardinals go, this is kind of a tough one because Kyler might not play next year due to injury, but they signed him to a long-term deal, which really means that, regardless of who the quarterback is next year, I don't think they're going to be bringing in somebody that's really competing with Kyler or looking to replace Kyler. Kyler is their long-term quarterback. They signed him to that huge deal, so it makes it really difficult to get out of him. So I really certainly think that they have their quarterback for the long-term future on the roster. Doesn't really fit into this category because Kyler might not play at all next year, but we are still going to put them in that category for right now. As far as the Chargers go, they certainly have their franchise quarterback in Justin Herbert, one of the most physically talented quarterbacks in the entire NFL. Same thing with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs here. No chance he is not the quarterback of this team next year. Very, very easy for those two there. Next, we have the Indianapolis Colts. They are absolutely desperate for a quarterback. I think they might be the team to trade up to number 1. There's a lot of rumors that they may like Will Levis or perhaps CJ Stroud more than Bryce Young because they like guys with prototypical tools and size. Matt Ryan, Sam Ehlinger, there's absolutely no way that these guys start for them next year. So the Colts are certainly desperate and will certainly have a new quarterback next year in 2023. For the Dallas Cowboys, you have your quarterback that is going to start. I think there's still question marks about what Dak can really be in the playoffs, what he can really do to lead this team to a Super Bowl, which I think they should be aiming for right now. I'm not sure I'd consider him a franchise level quarterback, but he's certainly going to be starting next year and certainly going to be this team's quarterback for the foreseeable future. As far as the Miami Dolphins go, I'm going to put them in the uncertainty here. Based on how Tua played, he certainly deserves to be the quarterback in 23. There's no doubt about that. I still have a little bit of concern about what Tua can do. I do think he has some physical limitations, but this is purely injury-based. 3 concussions in 1 year for Tua Tagovailoa. Obviously, some really scary ones as well, including the one that he got sent to the hospital for. There's just a little bit of uncertainty about his long-term future and his ability to play and sustain for a full season. I think at some point if the Dolphins continue to have issues with this, you're going to have to be realistic about where Tua is as far as a health perspective. And so I do think that creates some uncertainty in the Miami quarterback room there. For the Philadelphia Eagles, they certainly have their guy at quarterback. Jalen Hurts has been absolutely exceptional this past year. I'm not sure I'd put him at the absolute top echelon of quarterbacks right now, but I do consider him a franchise level guy right now. I think that his running ability, and he's really unlocks his passing ability as well. Certainly somebody they're going to be rolling with for the long-term future there. And a great pick by Howie Roseman in the second round to get him. They still got him on a cheap contract for another year or two. So certainly some exciting stuff there. As far as the Atlanta Falcons go, I'm going to put them in the looking for a replacement. You have Desmond Ridder, who you drafted in the third round. He looked perfectly fine in the couple of games that he got a chance to play. I think that Falcons are certainly open to upgrading from Desmond Ridder, but also you really don't even know what you have in him right now. He played like 4 games at the end of the season when the playoffs were pretty much already out of reach and there were some injuries on the team. So I don't think you can really get a fair evaluation of what Desmond Ridder may be, but I do think that they are probably looking for somebody that they believe in a little bit more. Obviously, Ridder, a third-round quarterback, probably not expected to be the long-term future. I think you, if you're a Falcons fan, want to give him that chance, but you got to be realistic. I do think they are looking for a replacement and somebody that they can really build a franchise around. For the San Francisco 49ers, I am going to put uncertainty here. This is more a product of they have 3 quarterbacks currently that have played games for them this season, and it's tough to predict who is going to be their starter next year. Brock Purdy, probably out for the entire season due to an elbow injury that he suffered in the playoffs, probably not going to be able to start. Trey Lance, we've seen like 1.5 games of Trey Lance. He's been injured. He hasn't played football in a long time for the most part. There's a lot of uncertainty there. Jimmy G is a free agent as well. Obviously, they're going to have one of those guys be the quarterback, but it's a lot of uncertainty of which one it's going to be. If I had to bet, it's going to be Trey Lance, but you've got to have a backup option. If Purdy is not able to go and Jimmy G leaves in free agency, you really want to rely on Trey Lance to carry this team. He has tons of upside, but due to his injury history and him just not playing in a long time, I think there's a legitimate cause for concern there for the 49ers. For the New York Giants, I'm putting them in the uncertainty tab as well. Daniel Jones played pretty well, but I think there's a big question of how much is he going to get on the free agent market. There's rumors that he could get anywhere from like $35 to $37 million a year. I think that's absurd money for Daniel Jones. I think he played well, and he deserves credit for that undoubtedly, but I think Brian Daboll really got the most out of him, and I don't think you can afford to pay somebody like Daniel Jones, who I think is a good, not great quarterback, really high amounts of money. That takes up a huge portion of the salary cap, and the Giants really just don't have a ton of extra money to spend right now. As good as they did this season, making it to the divisional round, I think they still have a lot of holes that they need to address. And so I'm just not really sure what'll happen. I ultimately think Daniel Jones does come back and he is the quarterback of this team next year, but potentially some other team could be willing to throw big money at him and he could just walk in free agency, and that leaves the Giants in a really interesting situation of where they might go. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, they certainly have their franchise quarterback. They're very happy with what Trevor Lawrence has developed into. I think you're going to continue to see him get better, and really no concerns at all about the long-term future of the Jacksonville Jaguars quarterback situation there with Trevor Lawrence at the helm. For the New York Jets, you're certainly looking for a replacement. I think they're going to go with a veteran option this offseason, probably someone like Derek Carr. Maybe you can get Aaron Rodgers away from the Packers. No idea there, but certainly you have to be looking to upgrade from Zach Wilson and Mike White, maybe Joe Flacco as well. These guys probably won't be on the team next year. White is a free agent. Zach Wilson probably not going to be on the team due to the falling out they've had. But we'll see what happens. I do ultimately think they end up with a veteran option there, and they're certainly looking to upgrade that position and have a replacement for Zach Wilson there. For the Detroit Lions, I think they pretty much are locked into Jared Goff next year. He deserves that. He played really well. And, I do think that they could consider taking a quarterback with their 2 first-round picks this year. But ultimately, Jared Goff is going to be the quarterback in 2023. And I really don't think that they're going to, bring in somebody that's really going to compete with him this year. I don't know about his long-term prospects as the quarterback of this team, but for next year, I certainly think that he is going to be the option, and he's, probably going to be the future moving forward until they get someone else. For the Green Bay Packers, certainly a ton of uncertainty here, not only with Aaron Rodgers, but also with Jordan Love. I think you're going to see one of those two guys be the quarterback of this team next year, but there's a lot of uncertainty of which one it's going to be. Aaron Rodgers is going into his room of darkness to contemplate what he is going to do this offseason. He could retire, he could leave and go somewhere else. Jordan Love, I think, will certainly want to get traded if Rodgers comes back next year. So a lot of uncertainty there for the Green Bay Packers. Ultimately, I do think you're going to have a talented quarterback starting there, but not sure which one and where Aaron Rodgers or Jordan Love may end up. For the Carolina Panthers, I think they are very desperate for a quarterback here. Sam Darnold deserves credit. He played well towards the end of this season, and I think there is a decent chance that he is the quarterback next year. But I really think they're going to bring in a young rookie quarterback. David Tepper has proven that he really wants to be aggressive and go get a quarterback. I think they're going to do pretty much whatever it takes to do that in the draft this year, whether that's trading up for CJ Stroud, letting Anthony Richardson fall to them and take him at number 9 overall. I think they're very desperate to get their guy. Sam Darnold deserves his credit, but I don't think he's going to be the long-term option for the Panthers, and I do think that eventually somebody else is going to start for them in 2023. For the New England Patriots, I am going to put some uncertainty here. Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi both played decently for the Patriots last year. I think Mac Jones is certainly going to be the starter moving forward, but I really wasn't super impressed with what Mac Jones was able to do for them last year. I think Zappi is decent enough as well. They operate the offense in very similar manners. I think that certainly Mac Jones will probably be the starter from day one, but I do think Bailey Zappi could come in if things start to fall apart for Mac Jones and the Patriots offense, so I'd be very interested to see how that all unfolds in New England there. For the Raiders, you're certainly looking for a replacement. That much is obvious. They've pretty much said it themselves. Derek Carr will not be the quarterback for this team next season. I'm not really sure that they are super desperate to get a quarterback in the building. I do think Josh McDaniels feels some pressure and feels that he is probably on the hot seat a little bit more than he would like. So it wouldn't be surprised if they bring in a veteran option rather than drafting someone this year. But you're certainly looking for a replacement for Derek Carr and certainly looking to try to upgrade from that position, even though I don't know that Derek Carr is the worst option there. For the Rams, I am going to put a little bit of uncertainty here. This is pretty much just because of Stafford's injury history. He really didn't play a whole lot towards the end of this season, and, he had some structural issues with his elbow as well, and he's just been really beat up over the course of his career. He's getting older as well. I certainly think he's going to start the year in 2023. That much is obvious. That's going to be the plan. But I'm not 100% sure he's going to make it through the entirety of the season. There's always that tiny chance that he retires or anything like that before the season starts anyway. So a little bit of uncertainty there, but I certainly think you can move him up to the will start in 2023 tier if you wanted to, and I would totally understand that. For the Baltimore Ravens, 100% uncertainty here. If you have Lamar Jackson, you have a franchise-level quarterback, but reportedly they're over $100 million off as far as guaranteed money. Now, he will certainly be franchise tagged by the Ravens, but it really seems like Lamar would probably be the kind of person that would hold out. And, because of his injuries, because of his style of play, he really wants to get paid this offseason, and I don't blame him for that, but it sounds like the Ravens and him are completely off when it comes to contract negotiations, and I think that could play a huge role in what this Ravens team looks like next year. If Lamar Jackson is not the quarterback, whether he's sitting or on another team, this is going to be a completely different team. I think that changes the entire trajectory of where the Ravens think they are. So certainly going to be interesting to see how that saga all unfolds. He would be the best free agent quarterback we have seen in a very, very long time if he hits the open market. He definitely won't. He'll either get traded, hold out, or be on the Ravens next year, but a lot of uncertainty there about what's going to happen in Baltimore. For the Saints, you are certainly looking for a replacement there. Andy Dalton actually played pretty decently last year considering the circumstances, but the Saints just have pretty much no money. They did trade back into the first round after trading Sean Payton, so potentially they could take a developmental quarterback there or something of that nature, but I think they're probably going to end up with Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston as the quarterback next year. Maybe you sign another veteran option of some kinds, but I'm not sure they'll have a chance to draft somebody really super exciting. So I am going to put them in the looking for replacement tier. I think they know this is probably a little bit of a longer term rebuild as the cap situation is just absolutely a wreck right now. But I'm going to put them in that looking for replacement tier right now. As far as the Seahawks go, uncertainty, I do think it needs to be where they're at. Geno Smith, I think they'd love to bring him back. He certainly played pretty well this season, and I think he deserves to be back. It's all just about, can they get that deal done with him since he is going to be a free agent? So a little bit of uncertainty there, but I certainly would expect him to be the quarterback of the Seahawks next year. For the Steelers, Kenny Pickett is certainly going to be the starter in 2023. Certainly don't think he's proven to be a franchise-level quarterback as of yet, but certainly going to be their guy moving forward. They invested a first-round pick in him last year. He played decently, and I thought he was playing actually fairly well down the stretch, but I do think he is certainly going to be locked in as that starter in 2023. For the Texans, I do think they are desperate for a quarterback. Davis Mills has not proven to be the guy at all, and I certainly think that they have that position to address in the draft. Number 2 overall, I do think they should be taking a quarterback. There's rumblings that maybe with the hiring of DeMeco Ryans, they'd be interested in defense. I completely understand that sentiment, but you have to get a franchise-level quarterback in there. I think you have to take one at number 2 overall. Even trade up to number 1. If you really, really love one guy more than the others, go get your guy, draft a franchise quarterback, and don't have Davis Mills start for you next year. For the Tennessee Titans, I certainly think they're looking for a replacement right now. Ryan Tannehill has not stayed healthy very well the past couple of years. I don't think he's been very good either, and they seemingly have absolutely no faith in Malik Willis at all. The GM got fired. Obviously, you bring in a new one. I'm pretty sure that Mike Vrabel was not one of the people really pushing for the Malik Willis pick. Doesn't really seem to have a ton of faith in him at all. And I think they're going to look for a replacement, perhaps in a draft setting here. I don't think that they're going to go sign a veteran option because you have Tannehill for that, and you have kind of a developmental guy in Malik Willis. But I wouldn't be surprised if they trade the house and go get somebody in this draft class. I think that is an underrated thing that could happen in this draft cycle. I do think that they are actively looking for a replacement for Ryan Tannehill, and it could come this offseason in the draft. As far as Kirk Cousins goes, I think he will certainly start in 2023. Had a very, very good season with Kevin O'Connell. He is getting a little bit up there in age. His contract is running out at the end of next year. So I think they could look to find a long-term replacement this offseason. Maybe draft somebody in the 3rd round that they really like. It is a developmental quarterback, something of that nature. But I think they are going to have Kirk start in 2023, but could be looking towards the future. And then finally, with the Washington Commanders, I think they are looking for a replacement here. You have Carson Wentz, you have Tyler Heineke, and you have Sam Howell on the roster right now. I think Howell could be a fun option. There was rumors that he could potentially be QB1 coming into the season on that depth chart there. I think Heineke is a fine backup or low-end starter, but you really need a true franchise-level quarterback. I could see them getting aggressive in this draft class, potentially go up and get somebody like Anthony Richardson, or potentially just take him if he does fall. So that is going to do it here. These teams towards the bottom of the list here, I certainly think could be looking to replace their quarterback for next season. There's a lot of teams in that uncertainty tier as well. There's going to be a lot of quarterback movement this offseason. But thank you so much for watching. If you like this kind of content, please hit that subscribe button down below. Hit that like button while you're down there as well. I put out a ton of NFL draft content, tier lists, predictions, rankings, all of that good stuff. So if that sounds interesting to you, please hit those buttons down below. Would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much. Bye.